Hey guys, it's Jenna. Welcome back to my channel today. In today's video, I'm going to be doing a review on the new Wayne Goss eyeshadow palette. This is the third palette he's made in his makeup line, and this is called Pearl. You can see that this one is super, super beautiful. Even though I absolutely love Wayne, his content, his personality, the other two palettes I felt super bad, but I didn't actually like them 100%. So this is going to be a very exciting review. I do have some interesting thoughts about this one, so let's get started. Talking about packaging first, the outer packaging that it comes in when you actually order from Beautylish is this ultra reflective silver outer packaging. This is similar to the other two palettes that he's released. It's come in this exact same outer packaging as well. And when you actually look on the back of it, you do have all of the ingredient details shade by shade, which is very, very convenient. And then you do have on this outer edge here, you have kind of like a map of the shades and where they're placed. So this is a palette that just has the name. It doesn't have shade names exactly. It just has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 for the bottom row, and the whole name of it is Pearl. So that's just how he organizes his palettes. On the box here, it's a 24-month shelf life, so that's just how much freshness the brand guarantees of the palette. Obviously, a lot of us use palettes above that date, which is fine, but just so you guys know that. And it is made in the USA. All of Wayne Goss's products are available at Beautylish. He does have lip liners, lipsticks, lip glosses. He has brushes, which are my absolute favorite. He has two other palettes, like I said. He also has face products as well, so he's really building his line. Very, very impressive for sure. Now, when you actually see the palette itself, this is the beautiful Pearl palette. The outer packaging is also identical to other palettes that he has done. It's the exact same, very beautiful, glossy plastic outer packaging. You can see it's also reflective. Then it has his branding there, his name on the front right side of the palette. This entire palette is 16.2 grams of product. And you can see also that it has a really gorgeous mirror as well. So you can absolutely use it on the go. So that is nice and convenient. Now, looking at the palette here, shade number 1 is actually a matte. Shade number 2 is a satin. Shade 3, 4, and 5 are also mattes. And he calls shade 6 the celestial shade. Now, in his last palette that I reviewed, it was called Moonstone. That had a very beautiful celestial shade as well. It just wasn't enough for me to recommend to you guys when I really only absolutely loved one shade. I do found that the other shades required a little bit more work. Some of them were a little patchy. Some of them were just a little harder to work with. And I know that Wayne wants to create an eyeshadow palette that actually caters to the beginner, to the intermediate, and to the expert. So that was just my findings, obviously, about those palettes previous. The Imperial Topaz palette was the one with the browns. That was one that I found to be a little bit better than the Moonstone one overall, but I still felt it to lack a little bit of something. And I think it just was the patchiness that some of the shades had. Not only did this color story, out of the three of them, really appeal to me the most. I mean, I'm just very naturally drawn to pinks, to browns, to this type of color story. I guess bridal makeup and that kind of thing is just very elegant, and that's the kind of stuff that I like to do on a regular basis. We are going to get to this side of the palette here because I was playing with the celestial shade today, and it did give me quite a bit of some vibes from other palettes, so we will talk about that. But just as a whole here, this palette out of the three really spoke to me the most, and I do think this is a color story that catering to my personal preferences the most as well. The price of this palette is 55 American dollars or 77 Canadian dollars, and I actually got this palette with a little combo. So he does have some combo sets. He has a trio of all three of them, and he also has like a mascara and eyeshadow kit now. So that's how I actually picked up this mascara too, because I really wanted to take a look at this one. This is the waterproof mascara from Wayne Goss. I've always wanted to try this, but I know for me as a Canadian consumer, shopping on Beautylish, you do have to hit a certain amount. I think it's over 100 or 120 before you can get their very fast expedited shipping. Otherwise, the other option is quite slow. So maybe that's just for Canada or just for my region of Canada, but I was excited to wait until I got this set so I could actually get the express shipping. One thing that's very unique about this palette compared to the other two that he's done was there is no matte black in this palette. Initially, Wayne did mention that he wanted to include a matte black in every palette, and that was just to speak to the versatility of having a black shade in every palette. You could use it as a liner, you could use it as shadow, you could really do a lot with a matte black, and having a very comfortable, easy to use matte black is really key. But a lot of people actually expressed that they didn't think that was necessary in every palette, and so he listened to the feedback, and this palette does not contain a black matte. I actually do think that was a really nice move that he did, because you do get to be quite redundant when you do pick up palettes that he has over and over again. And because of how big these pans are, I don't foresee people going through the matte black very quickly. So you will get a ton of the same shade over and over again. So I absolutely do like that he decided to do it for this one. And I think that a matte black would kind of take away from how soft, like feminine pink this palette really is. Now for today's look, I actually primed my lids with, of course, the Smashbox 24-hour eye primer. I talk about this every video. This is my favorite for now, absolutely. I've tried the Urban Decay Primer Potion. I've tried the Hourglass one. This is the one for sure that's the best for me and my eyes. My first step was actually going in with the first shade. This is a matte, and this is a creamy, lightly beige matte. Very, very beautiful. This was actually super easy to build up, super easy to blend out, super easy to apply to the lid, and I was specifically looking for anything patchy or dry related because that was my previous experience with some other mattes he's done. Really, really like this. There's a touch of kick up in the pan, but not a ton, and the fallout is 0. So that is amazing. Next, I wanted to go all over with one of the other mattes. This is the pink. This is number 3. Now, pink is so beautiful. It's kind of like a light rosy pink, super flattering. You can see it's all over the lid here, applying beautifully. And this is one that I would say I needed a couple of layers to apply over the lid to get that maximum opacity. This is one that wasn't patchy, but it did have a little bit of a softer overall pigmentation upon a first layer. So just so you guys know, if you do want to have more of that pigment impact, you are going to have to build it a little bit, but the good news is that building it is not going to get fallout all over your face, and it's certainly not going to be patchy or make it difficult to do so. I found this was actually really, really easy to do. Next, I had to dip into that Celestial shade. This is very reminiscent of the Pillow Talk Pop shade from Charlotte Tilbury. I will be doing a comparison so you can tell whether or not they're similar enough to you, but this is one that had a very similar texture. It's very shimmery, has that impact, but incredibly thin as well. And I just popped this all over the lid with a fingertip. This I found to be the best method to apply this with. You can absolutely kind of spray a brush if you want, but I prefer to use my fingertip for this. I know some of you don't like to get your hands in there, so just spray a brush if you want the best impact with this one. I did find though on a brush application it will fall a little bit simply because it's a looser pigment kind of creamy shade, but if you do apply with a fingertip, there is 0 fallout. This look today, I wanted to have a little bit of definition kind of in the corner there, so I did actually pick up one of the mattes. This is shade number 4, and this one is also super beautiful. It's a very warm brown. Also one that I didn't find to be patchy, but then again, I only used it for the outer edge here. So I'm going to do some more testing with this shade and let you guys know what I think. Typically, because this is one of the deeper shades in here, I kind of foresee this being more of like a shadowing shade where it's just kind of like an outer corner situation. It did a fantastic job. I personally felt like a couple of layers, that's all I needed, and it did blend out beautifully. I felt like, you know, looking at edging and stuff, all I had to do was take a brush from the first shade and just kind of go in there and just do a little touchity touch up. Like all I had to do is just kind of blend out the edges a little bit like that. That's really all I needed to do to make it tidy, to make it look natural. Unfortunately, I haven't tried the 2 middle shades yet, but I will absolutely try them and update you in a hits and misses. So far, you guys, my first impression is very, very strong. Right off the bat, I feel like this experience has been better than the other 2. Definitely better than the Moonstone one. I was just so upset that one could not work out for me, and it was even better as well compared to Imperial Topaz. This is my favorite palette from him so far based on my first impression. So I do have Pillow Talk here. As you can see, we do have some similar shades in this Wayne Goss palette. So Wayne Goss is on the left and Pillow Talk on the right. You can see that Pillow Talk has a bit more of a peachy pinkness to it, whereas the Wayne Goss one is a little bit more of a brighter pink. So this one is not dupable at all, but I can totally see how there would be some similarities between them. So once again, we have Wayne Goss on the left and Pillow Talk on the right. Pillow Talk does have more of that peachy pink underneath their shimmer shade as well. This is the pop shades side by side. So pop shade from Charlotte Tilbury's Pillow Talk versus Wayne Goss's Celestial shade. Wayne Goss's definitely is more of a silver, absolutely, and it doesn't have that peachiness either underneath it. The Pillow Talk one is a little bit more golden. You can see that there, just how they shine. They're definitely different, but they feel very, very similar in pan. So I would say if you're familiar with the Pillow Talk pop shade, the Celestial feels very similar to that. Comparing Pillow Talk to Wayne Goss, this I think is the most similar shade out of the three. This is the shade number 4 versus the other deeper matte in Pillow Talk. Now you can see that Wayne Goss's is a little bit like a slight more purpley brown. I totally see why you guys would think there'd be some inspiration pulled from that palette because they do have very similar vibes. If you are a big fan of the Pillow Talk quad and you're kind of thinking about whether or not you want to get the Wayne Goss one, do know that, you know, half of his shades, because there are 6, do have some interesting similarities. They're not quite exact shades, but they do have very similar vibes. So it could also be a way for you to decide whether this Wayne Goss palette is worth it for you or not. Now some quick thoughts about the mascara. I will let you guys know that this is a so far so good first impression as well. This is a waterproof mascara, so it is a little bit different than what I'm used to. I don't typically wear waterproof formulas, but this mascara is made in Canada, which, you know, represent. That was kind of awesome to see. And it is a very interesting wand. It's one of the shortest bristled wands I have seen, and it does have very distinct bristles. Like when you're actually applying them within your lashes, there are times where you can almost hear the bristles running through your lash. Like it's almost like like some kind of very light sound. It's not crazy, it's not painful, it's not sharp, like a comb, you know what I mean? Going through your lash. So that is something that I noticed. I also noticed that this is one that you do have to really work in the lash. So you don't need multiple layers, that's not what I mean, but if you just went like bloop bloop, that's it. It's not gonna look the best. It's gonna look quite straightforward like this. You really do have to comb and lift as you work with it. That's what I found was the best way, and so far I do really like it. I do think that this would require a little bit of an eyelash curl as well. My lashes do seem to be a little bit not as lifted as normal with some other formulas, and you guys know that curling my lashes scares the bejesus out of me, so I'm gonna have to learn how to do that, especially for my particular eye shape. My eye shape is almond, so sometimes the lashes at the end here tend to sag because I do have quite a bit of them and they tend to kind of like droop downward, and I really have to learn because I think lifting them up would really open up my eye, so I'm working on it, guys. Please be patient. So far so good with this mascara as well, but of course after multiple trials and tests, I will let you guys know what I think of it overall long term and whether or not it is worth the buy. I also can't wait to use this satin shade and then kind of put this pink in the outer corner. I think that would be beautiful. There's just so many like really gorgeous looks you can do with this palette. So first off, my first impressions are very strong and I'm very impressed that this is my favorite palette so far out of the 3. Let me know your thoughts on this beautiful palette. Is it on your wish list or not? I hope this review was helpful for you, and until my next one, guys, take care and stay safe. Bye guys!